All right, so here we're going to classify each as either a right triangle, an obtuse triangle, or an acute triangle, and we're going to use our Pythagorean theorem to do that. Remember, if the Pythagorean theorem works, then I have a right triangle. But if the hypotenuse side is too big, it's obtuse, and if the hypotenuse side is too small, then it's acute. All right, and so here I go. I'm going to plug this into the Pythagorean theorem, and just like any time I plug into the Pythagorean theorem, I have to make sure I use the biggest side for C. All right, I don't even know if that's going to be a hypotenuse when it's all said and done because this thing might not be a right triangle. All right, but the potential hypotenuse has to still be the longest side. All right, so in this one, when I look at the longest side is this guy right here, so that's going to be my C value. And again, if you go from least to greatest every time, it kind of takes care of itself. Watch this, 10 squared plus 24 squared equals 26 squared. Okay, so I just plug that into my Pythagorean theorem, make sure you use the longest side for C. Okay, and now I simplify. See, that's going to be a 100. Here, 24 squared you can do on the calculator. That's a 576. 26 squared you can also do on the calculator. That's a 676. And so when I add this up, that's 676 equals 676. Since those are the same, the Pythagorean theorem works, meaning that this thing is a right triangle. So I can classify this as a right triangle based on the fact that the hypotenuse side was the same as the other side, all right, when I did my Pythagorean theorem. Okay, so this one is a right triangle. Okay. If I look at the next one, again, I have to use the biggest value as my C value. So right here, I'm going to use the biggest value, the 10. That's going to be my C value. Let's plug everything else in. So here we go. It's 4 squared plus 8 squared equals 10 squared. And so I plug away here, I simplify, that's going to be a 16 plus 64 equals 100. I continue to simplify, that's 80 equals 100. And so the Pythagorean theorem didn't work here, so that didn't work, so it's not a right triangle. But let's think about what went wrong here. Why is this not a right triangle? It's not a right triangle because the hypotenuse side, the 10, ended up being too big. And if the hypotenuse is too big, then the angle across from it is too big, which means instead of a 90-degree angle, I'll have a bigger angle. So this is an obtuse triangle. Okay? Anytime the hypotenuse side is too big, it's going to be obtuse. All right? And then looking at this next one, again, the longest side has to be used as C, so this one is the one I'm going to attempt to use as my hypotenuse. And so let's plug it into the Pythagorean theorem. I've got 8 squared plus 15 squared equals 16 squared. And I simplify, that's 64 plus 225 equals a 256. And if you don't know those off the top of your head, that's okay. Just go off to the side and plug it into a calculator, okay? And now I continue to simplify. That's 289. And of course, 289 does not equal the 256, so this didn't work in terms of my Pythagorean theorem, so it's not a right triangle. But we ask ourselves the question, why didn't it work, okay? And it didn't work because that hypotenuse side is too small this time, right? The hypotenuse side came up short, which means the 16 is too small to be a hypotenuse. And if that side, if the hypotenuse is too small, it means the angle across from it is too small, meaning that it's got to be less than 90 degrees, so this one is an acute triangle. Okay? If the hypotenuse side is equal to the other side, if it works, it's a right triangle. If the hypotenuse side is too big, then it's obtuse. And if the hypotenuse side is too small, if it comes up short, then it's an acute triangle. Okay?